I think I'm going to start only because the sessions I noticed this morning really go back to back to back. And it's just in respect to the presenters that are going next, I thought I would begin. My name is Scott Genzer. I'm a middle school, high school principal in Kingston, Jamaica. It's a small school. We have 260 students, pre-K to 12. We're a very, very small school. Our graduating classes, I think we have 17 this year. Maybe someday we'll break 20. So I think it's important to understand that context of where I'm coming from. I know you're all from different schools and you all have different sizes and different contexts, from really large schools to small schools. But I think we have some similar issues with data analysis. And this is not a very sophisticated talk. I just want to present some very simple ideas that we came up with in Kingston to meet a need about how to analyze data with very limited resources, with limited human resources, limited financial resources. Just a very, very simple way to move forward. And this is the first presentation I'm going to do that actually is almost virtually no PowerPoint.
After this morning,
I think I have 5 slides, and then that's going to be the first 5 minutes of this presentation. I'm going to abandon it, and I'm going to go live and sort of show you. I'm going to actually show you just live data. And so I apologize in advance if some things, you never quite know what happens in a presentation if you use live data, so we'll just go forward with that and see what happens. And please ask me questions. I think this, hopefully will be interesting for all of you. So, I'm not really going to talk at all about, I'm really not qualified to talk about the research behind data analysis. I think we've all been reading the same articles for a long time, and it's not my expertise, and so I'm really not going to go there. But suffice to say that there's a lot of research out there that we should be using data. I think we all know this. We all have committees we formed, and data analysis committees. Maybe you have people in your school who are dedicated to this. Most of you probably don't. I've only heard of a few schools that really have dedicated people to data analysis. And of course now, especially with computers and the internet, we have mountains of data. Now, the problem is not the quantity of data. We all have it. But we have to move to actions, and there's a gap between the data we have and the actions we want to do, and there's a gap. And so that's really what the focus of this talk is. It's not about research-based initiatives with data collection. It's not about the data itself. It's really about this gap between what do you do once you realize there's a problem and you want to do some actions. How do you use data to sort of make things happen? That's the purpose of this next hour. So I did some searching and I talked to a lot of people in international schools, and currently I see data analysis in international school really falling in one of 3 situations. If you're very lucky and you have a good budget and you're doing very well, you have a dedicated data person in your school. I'm very envious. It's wonderful. And I think actually more and more it's going to be a priority in our schools to have somebody dedicated to data analysis. We don't. That's me. I'm an acting principal, and that's part of my job is to analyze data and deal with discipline and scheduling and also substitute teachers and all the other stuff that I deal with every day. And that's a nice luxury. If you have it, it's wonderful. You could also mess with Excel for a while. Excel is, I think, the most overabused piece of software on the planet. It's a great piece of software if you're an accountant. If you are working with some numbers, and your business manager probably uses Excel all the time. But it's easily the most abused piece of software. It's really god-awful for us if you're really trying to analyze data in your school. Raise your hand if you tried to mess with Excel to analyze your data. Yeah. It's awful. It really is. If you're comfortable with Excel, you can make things happen, but it's just terrible. I call it Excel hell. It really is awful. And the other thing that a lot of us get are these canned reports. NWEA has a lot of canned reports. They're very good, actually. There's a lot of very good reports. IB gives us canned reports. College Board gives us canned reports. They're fine, but the problem with canned reports is they only show you what they think you want to see. Not what you want to see, what they think you want to see. So for example, one of my favorite canned reports is through MAP and NWEA. They have these predicted growth. Anybody know what I'm talking about? There are these predicted growth things. And it's great, and I use that, and it's wonderful. But I don't want to look at it always that way. I want to look at it another way, and I want to mess with it around. And it doesn't let me do that. I dig into Descartes, and I try to go in there, and I just don't get anywhere. Try to deal with PSAT, SAT data with the College Board, it's even worse. Anybody get these long printouts from the College Board? They're awful. They're awful. IB, great organization. I get these downloads, these PDFs. Anybody hand these out in staff meetings, these printouts? They're terrible. They're terrible. So I think there's a need, and listen, this is not the only game in town. Actually, I'll do a little plug. There's a nice gentleman named Brian who's actually back there, and he's going to do a session right after this, another way using data dashboards. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. This is just one idea that I think can be useful for some of you. So I think small schools, and when I say small, I mean under 2,000 students, need a simple, visual, dynamic way for administrators to make sense of data. I think the key word there is dynamic, because I think the best way to work with data is to work in a dynamic sense, not in a static sense with canned report, but actually be able to do things on the fly. The hard part is that if you want to do that, you're back into Excel hell, or you're into very sophisticated pieces of software. And we're administrators, we're not statisticians, and it's very difficult to deal with. So I went back to my teaching days, and there's a piece of software that I did. First of all, disclaimer, I don't work for a company. I wish I did. I'd make more money. But anyway, I'm going to use a program called Tinkerplots. Besides Maddie, anybody else ever heard of Tinkerplots? It's not a very well-known piece of software. And the reason is it's mainly used by middle school math teachers. It's really the only people that use it. That's how I use it. I used to teach 7th grade math. And I like it because it's cheap. It's cheap. It's very simple to use. It's visual. And it's designed for kids in grades 4 to 7, which means it's perfect for us. It's perfect for us. I figure so, and you'll see, it really does some neat things. So here's my last slide. I told you I only got 5 slides. I want to walk you through some scenarios that I've been dealing with over the last 2 years, where I've been using Tinkerplots to go and analyze school data and come up with action plans based on data analysis. And I thought for you all, probably all more experienced than I am in administration, I thought I would just walk you through 4 different scenarios that I've dealt with, and you can apply it in any way you see fit. Here are my 4 scenarios. I was asked by my head of school to make a presentation to the board on our MAP scores. It's a very standard thing. Anybody else do a presentation to your board about your MAP results? Okay. So I was going to use canned reports, and I used Tinkerplots. I received word that my science department, I don't know if this applies to any other school in here, is known to be grading harshly. I received anecdotal data, but I needed hard data to prove that and to make it real, because maybe it wasn't true. And I needed to prove it and then come up with an action plan to help the science department. PSAT results came in. We needed to go and present these results to teachers and move forward. And then the 4th one was one that came up this year. We had really good MAP results, and we had terrible PSAT results. And the question was asked to me, why is this true? Scott, what's going on here? Your MAP is great, your PSATs are terrible. There should be some correlation, one would think. Not the same test at all. PSAT is not an adaptive test like MAP is, but there should be some correlation, and the answer was I didn't know. So I collected data to try to answer that question. All I'm going to try to do now in the next 45 minutes is try to walk you through these scenarios. I did mention in my blurb in the booklet that I was going to talk about IB. The things I'm going to show you could easily be applied to IB data. It's just that, I don't know if any of you else have been IB coordinators, but actually downloading data from the IB is not easy to do at all. And I also have very, very few data. Being in Kingston, I only have 6 diploma candidates. And you can't really draw statistics. But the stuff I'm going to show you, you could do for IB predicted grades, IB results. It doesn't matter what data set you're using. So I apologize if I bait and switched you into here. You saw I was going to talk about IB and I didn't. That's it. Those are my end of my slides. Thank you very much.